In the previous video, we ran our tests using an in-memory SQLite database. In this video, I'll show you how to use a real database like MySQL. First, let's discuss why you want to do this. SQLite is probably good for a lot of cases, but sometimes you want to use functionality that is only available in MySQL or another database of your choosing. Imagine, for instance, that you want to use a JSON column in your package. This feature is not available in SQLite. Laravel also has excellent support for JSON columns. There are a few specific methods on the query builder, and these all won't work with SQLite. Luckily, using a database like MySQL in the tests of your package is not that difficult. And to save us some time, I've already made the necessary modifications. Let's go to our test case first. You can see that we don't use the testing database connections anymore. In fact, we don't specify anything, so Laravel's default will be used. And by default, Laravel will use a MySQL connection. Now each individual test is going to run the migrations. And to make sure that we always start from a clean slate, we are going to call drop all tables in get environment setup. The credentials for your local database can be put in the PHP unit configuration file. You can see the values that I'm using here. Locally, I'm using Valet, which sets up a MySQL database that has a root user without a password. And I've also made sure that there is a database named Laravel example. Of course, you can set this to anything you like, as long as you ensure that a database with that name exists. With this in place, the tests run fine locally. But what about GitHub Actions? Let's go to our workflow, and I've already prepared this one too. In a GitHub workflow, you can start MySQL like this. You specify that you want to use the MySQL service. Here you can set up the credentials that will be used by the database. We're also going to specify the database name. In this extra step, we are going to verify that the MySQL connection exists. And finally, in our execute test step, we are going to add some environment variables and pass it the credentials that need to be used. On GitHub Actions, MySQL won't actually run on port 3306, and this is how you can get the real port it's using. Again, to save us some time, I already pushed this and the tests have run. And here you can see those extra steps. A MySQL service was added. We verified that it's actually working, and our tests ran fine. So using a database like MySQL in the tests of your package isn't hard at all. My recommendation is to keep things simple. If your tests run okay with SQLite, just keep on using that. And if you need some MySQL specific functionality like JSON columns, switch over to MySQL in your tests.